Now, a total of 93.4 million eligible and registered voters will, on the 25th of February 2022, or 2023 rather, vote in the most preferred candidate of the 18 candidates just linked to succeed the incumbent president, Muhammadu Buhari, who is serving out the second of his constitutionally permitted 2 4-year terms.
And of course, away from the traditional 2-horse race, there are top 4 contenders in this election. They include a 2-term former governor of Lagos and a major stalwart of the ruling All Progressives Congress. I'm talking of Bola Tinubu and the candidate of the People's Democratic Party's Atiku Abubakar, who is a former vice president and is running for the position for the 6th time.
Well, we also have a 2-time former governor of Eastern Anambra State, Peter Obi, who is running under the Labour Party and considered as the most popular candidate among the Nigerian youths. I'm sure some people will disagree, but I mean, it's left for the masses to decide. And the last but not the least is Rabiu Kwankwaso, who is an ex-defense minister and former governor of the Northern Kano State, as well as the candidate of the new Nigeria People's Party, the NNPP.
Well, you'd agree with me that New Central TV has been monitoring the electoral process from the collection of PVCs to campaign rallies and, of course, the major economic effect of the redesigning of the new Naira note, which is somehow affecting voters' decision in the area.
All right, now we will join a News Central's correspondent, AMADIN, who joins us live from Adamawa State. But before then, we are definitely going to have NIYI, OMONIYI, who is joining us from Anambra State, and of course, BETTINA, NWELIH, who will be joining us from Delta State. But we'll have NIYI first. Now, NIYI, thank you for joining us. I hope your journey there wasn't stressful.
Not really. It's been smooth.
All right, glad it wasn't. BETTINA, how about you?
My trip was very successful.
Okay, glad to know. All right, NIYI, you are in Anambra State, and that's like the state of the Labour Party's candidate, Peter Obi, who they say has the most, popular following for now. Now, he has since appeared to be a third force in this election, which is unusual because usually it's, the 2-party, 2-horse race. Now, can you give us a feel of what's going on in the state right now? How prepared are the people of Anambra State?
Well, I will start straight from the INEC. We visited some of the INEC post, and we saw that there has been distribution of materials to various rack centers, and they are taking it to the CBN, first, and of course from the CBN offices it will be dispersed to various rack centers starting from tomorrow, which we are going to monitor. And we also observed the show of force from the police, although not as heavy as we have in other states across Nigeria. But of course here we've also seen the show of force by the police moving around, but in skeletal places and just few options. We spoke with some people earlier. We tried to get the opinion of people, and of course, just as you said earlier, this is the state where Peter Obi once governed under the All Progressive Grand Alliance, and that particular him getting into power at that particular time came with a lot of issues. There was the impeachment, there was the court ruling, and so many other things, but the affinity seems to still be drawn to him, noting that he has done so much for the state, and of course he's a man who has built integrity over the years. That's what the people are saying here.
All right, we understand that we've been getting some reactions from Delta State, where we have our correspondent currently, BETTINA. I understand that you've been speaking to some of the residents, talking about, they feel in the state currently. We're going to have the video now to hear from the people from Deltans ahead of the 2023 presidential elections.
What did they bite me for body so? 63 days, one more time. We never shop. Day before yesterday, I eat garri sleep. When I wake up, remain small, I for die. Now sugar cane, when they break, now I shop before I call recover myself. Nigeria government, we beg now, make everything, make it good. Wife get belle, if you bomb by this time now, as he go take discharge am. Talk of say, person will never get belle. Hungry day everywhere. I beg Nigeria government, I beg. May I help us.
Cash matter this period was to every year though. Even normally, as I collect cash, they reach this period, I don't see any cash they collect. Even the transfer 7 they say they even they do so. The transfer not they work. Sure you understand. Even if you say you want to go withdraw, the charges don't high. 10,000 now 3,000 they tell they collect. Some place, if they look you well, 2,000. So every year out for the cash matter, we need cash.
So that's the reactions we got from Delta State. Now, Bettina, you're in Delta State, and of course, we've heard from the residents there. What have you seen since you got into the state? We know that we've gotten reactions from them. Can you also tell us, what do you think the voters' turnout would be like on Saturday, looking at the reactions we are getting from the people?
Well, quite honestly, Adeshawa, I'm not sure that we can really determine what will happen on Saturday. Reason being that financially, a lot of the residents are not prepared. I went to different banks in the state. In the city where I am, in Ogara, a lot of people are upset. Getting into the banks, it's a huge problem. Now, the citizens claim that some of the bankers, what they do is that they allow their family members and friends into the bank and then leave the rest of the masses to fend for themselves. So you have people standing in front of the banks to access cash from 7 a.m. to like 4 p.m. and at the end of the day, they still cannot get anything. In order to maintain peace and sanity in the state as well, soldiers have been deployed, policemen have been deployed. For every bank that you will see military men and you will see policemen. And at the same time, while trying to keep the peace and order, they are also, pouring anger on the citizens. A young lady today showed me how she was beaten and battered by the army just because we were trying to put peace at the bank. And she says that she was just trying to access simple 5,000 naira, which is what the banks are giving in this zone per person. So if you need more than 5,000 naira, that means you have to queue every day from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. And chances are you may not even get any money at the end of the day. So asking citizens here what they think about elections on Saturday, people are saying that if they do not have money to get to their polling units, how does that work? And if they have not even eaten, if a person decides to be so patriotic as to trek, how do they get there on empty stomachs? So a lot of people are agitated and frustrated in this part of the country, and I really hope that it doesn't affect the upcoming elections.
I mean, hopefully so. It really is a sad situation, and there's been a lot of speculation over time that it is a political move to stall the elections. But here we are, a few days to voting. So NIYI is still talking about the long queues. We see that there is a little bit of persistence in many states, and I'm sure that the Southwest is not left behind. We've also seen some videos circulating on social media about the presence of military personnel in certain states like Lagos. I would like to know if it's the same for where you are.
Well, not as much as I'm sure Bettina had said earlier. We don't have much security presence like that. Not that the security personnel are not actually there, but we've seen them in just few numbers at strategic places, and of course trying to parade the whole community, displaying the show of force. But if I'm talking about the people and long queues, yes, the fuel scarcity is still a little bit obvious here, because just very few mega stations are selling, and the ones selling are the ones selling around 195 per litre, and the place is filled up. But for the independent stations, they're still selling around 300 plus, and people have no choice than to buy, which has of course raised the stakes on what people want to do with their cash, even if they have the cash. In talking about the banks are open, but access are not really granted for people there. They're just standing in front of the bank. But unlike Delta, where the people are not quite sure they will come out to vote that day because of the scarcity of the fuel and cash, here in Anambra, this is more or less like a feel that is propelling them to say they want to come and cast their vote on Saturday, so that they can elect someone that will change the country for them.
All right, NIYI, we understand that in Anambra State, you are in the state where the Labour Party candidate is coming from. I'm talking of Peter Obi. When you talk about people, directing the anger and the aggression of the current situation to go out to vote, do we see what's the percentage? We understand that in Nigeria now, many of the youth are actually now bringing this aggression, coming from the NSAS movement. Are we seeing something similar in Anambra State, particularly because it's the state of Peter Obi?
The truth is, I heard a story recently about from one of the elders here about the time when Peter Obi was actually the governor of the state, and he mentioned that there was a particular hotel which he brought down, and the man has been going to court for years because of that hotel that was brought down, and has had a lot of grievances against Peter Obi. the awkward part of the situation is, even now when it has to do with politics and changing Nigeria, that man is currently supporting Peter Obi. And same applies to most of the Gen Zs or the young generation we've spoken to that are on ground here. Yes, very few of the older generations have put out support for the ruling All Progressives Party, Congress, and of course the People's Democratic Party. But mostly for the Labour Party, that has been the support we've been getting on ground here. Most of the youth we spoke to earlier, as I said earlier, are more geared up and putting their trust in Peter Obi, not just because he has ruled the state before and because they can bank on what he has done, no, but also because that they believe that he is a man for the job and he is a man that can change the country.
All right, there was a little bit of drama, NIYI, some time ago where Chukwuma Soludo, the current governor of Anambra State, was speaking against Peter Obi, and it kind of seemed like that was going to truncate Peter Obi's chances, although a lot of people said that that was like 0% going to happen. But I want to know if it had any impact on, you know, the youth in Anambra State or the people of Anambra State, seeing how two of their sons were kind of in a quell, you know, in an issue that seemed unsolvable at the time.
Well, I won't be able to really generalize, but from the few cross-section of people I've spoken with, noting that this same party, the All Progressives Grand Alliance, was the party Peter Obi also contested under in 2003, it hasn't changed much because the man they seem to love is Peter Obi and not just for the party. And speaking about the representative for ABUJA, even at the presidential level, the support here is only at the government side, the government officials. But for people at the grassroots, for most of the young ones, even some elderly ones on ground, most of the people we have spoken with, their alliance lies with Peter Obi. So irrespective of maybe the governor is in support of a particular place, maybe one of the reasons, one of the person we spoke to earlier spoke about the fact that he is even not so sure ABUJA will pull any polls here in Anambra, but Peter Obi certainly has their alliance.
All right, NIYI, I would ask you based on the viral video that has now been circulated online, but of course it's also coming from Anambra State. We understand that some hunters found some PVCs inside the bush, which they also took over to one of the local radio stations there. And we saw one of the on-air personalities there, you know, talking about how they have thousands of the permanent voters cards in their stations that are up for grabs. What's the update on this, please?
Well, this was one of the very, very first news we decided to track immediately we got here. And the first person we reached out to was the head of news of that same station, Authority FM, which is Ike Naukonko. And we spoke with him earlier. We were supposed to even have him on the show, but he couldn't make it. And the questions we asked him was, number one, did the hunter really see a sack of PVCs? And he said yes. We tried reaching out to the INEC PRO for Anambra, and he mentioned that he dismissed it, that nothing like that we should get information from the hunter. But while I was speaking with Ikena, he mentioned that the PRO gave some reasons why that might be possible. He said INEC offices have been attacked across Anambra, and according to the head of news for Authority FM, he said just about 6 local governments has been hit, and even the PVCs that were recovered from that sack are PVCs registered of 2006, 2011, 2013, not even for the new registrant. So if you are saying the ones that are just registering are the ones that are there, or it's as a result of the INEC offices that has been attacked, then that would not be true. That would negate that particular opinion, because the PVCs that were found in that sack are PVCs that have been registered, that were supposed to be picked up for collection even before this new registration started for this election. So a lot of rancor is still going on about this. The INEC PRO has told us to dismiss this, but they said the police is investigating the matter, and of course we are with the police investigation. Once we're able to get our hands on that information, we'll certainly give it out.
All right, I think we have Bettina with us now. Bettina, if you can hear us, I would like to know what the security situation is. But we also have AMADIN who will be coming back to ask some questions. But Bettina, can you let us know what the security situation in Delta State is currently? Because we hear that, you know, the governor said that the youths there have promised to protect the INEC personnel. So what is the level of security in that state?
There's a lot of security. I don't know if you noticed a few seconds ago while you were asking your question, like 3 police vans just drove past me right here. And earlier on, like I told you, for every bank that we went to, there was military presence, there was police presence, as well as the in-house security of the banks. So order and law is well respected in Delta State. There is no chaos. We haven't seen anywhere where people are fighting, even though people are on the edge because of the inability to get cash. But the security situation is very calm and on point in this part of the country.
All right, so we've seen reports that Delta State seems to be neutral when it comes to, support for any of the candidates. Said that there has not been any dominant support for each of the candidates. From what you have seen so far, I mean, you've been able to record the angers of the residents talking about the queues for fuel and cash, and then we've also seen that the region have been represented in presidency in the past. What do you think is the dominant party now?
Well, I will say that the dominant party, from the few people that we spoke to, will be Labour Party. I do not really know the grievances that some Deltans have against their governor, but they seem not to be happy with the governor and the work that he has done in the last 4 years. So most people are leaning towards Labour Party. But Saturday will come and, we will know the final result of what is going on. But for now, I would say that the PDP and the Labour Party have more dominance here in Delta State.
All right, we also have our bureau chief, AMADIN, who is joining us from Adamawa State. AMADIN, thank you for joining us. Can you tell us what the mood is in the state right now?
Okay, the first thing you realize when you get into Yola, which is very visible, are the queues at POS ATM terminals. The Naira redesign policy is also biting people very, very hard here. You notice these long queues are several banks within the capital. But right now, where I am, I'm standing at the Jimeta area of Yola. And I've spoken to one or two people. It seems it's going to be a very heavily contested election here. Because don't forget that this is the home state of the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party. Be that as it may, they are very notable personalities or political heavyweights in the current APC government that are also from this state. You have the wife of the president, you have the secretary to the government of the federation, you have the minister of the Federal Capital Territory. So you see, you can't say it's a one-horse race here. Yes, it will be looking like because this is Atiku Abubakar's home state, he will have an easy run here. But for what we've spoken to several people on ground, for what I have heard and what I have seen, is not just going to be an easy victory for the PDP because of these political heavyweights I referred to earlier on that are from the state. They too have their own crowd, they too have their own they have their own for the
All right, AMADIN, if you can hear us, there was a time when they were mentioning things like Adamawa State doesn't have a governorship candidate. How true is that?
No, Adamawa State has, in fact, unity of Adamawa State. Adamawa State has always had very strong women representation from the Senate, in the Senate, in politics. In fact, Adamawa State is the only state that has a front runner female candidate vying for the position of the governorship of the state. Aisha Binani, she has her own supporters and supporter base, and she's with the All Progressives Congress. Though it is a PDP state, the current governor is from PDP, but the whole country is looking and are really rooting and hoping that maybe Adamawa State will be the first state in Nigeria that will produce a female governor. Don't forget, like I said, they've had very strong voices in the Senate in in the last few years. We had people like Senator Grace Benz, who was the chair of the Environmental Committee, very, very tough woman, very, very strong personalities. We've had several people, and now Aisha Binani is now, she was able to clinch the APC nomination ticket, which is a very, very difficult feat. For when you look at Nigeria and understand that the North is a very conservative place, especially when it has to do with gender in politics, you would really give it to her for being able to clinch the ticket. So the presidential elections, the governorship elections is going to be a very tough call for this state, but it's also going to be very, very exciting.
About gender equality, we've seen that over time Nigeria has a visible inequality in representation for gender representation in politics. The women, of course, for example, the presidential election has just one woman vying for the position of the president of Nigeria. What are the people of Adamawa saying when it comes to the representation of women in their state politics now?
Now, if you have followed the politics from the North, the politics of the North, especially the Northeast, it has always been predicted that maybe the Northeast might be able to break the jinx. Maybe it has to do with the heterogeneity of religion, culture, the number of ethnic groups they have. Remember, at one point in time, Taraba State, which is just a border state to Adamawa State, we had a frontline female governorship candidate, the lady known as Mama Taraba. She's late now, I think almost about 8 years ago or 4 years ago that she vied for the governorship of the state. A lot of people expected her to win, but dying minute, I think the last stronghold in Taraba State that had population, she was not able. She was at one time even live during the election of results, but her opponent was able to muster his own support base at the remaining area and she was beaten. She went to court, but she still lost. So you see, when Adamawa and Taraba, they are almost similar because they were together before they were separated as states. And like I said, the women from this area have always had very, very strong personality and strong character. When you talk about politics, remember Aisha Binani was once a senator. She was one of those. At a point in time, she was the only senator from the entire Northeast region. Now she's coming out for governor, and she has her own support base. But like I said, you will have to give it to the women from the Northeast, Adamawa, Gombe, Taraba, Bauchi, and others, because they are trying to pull their voice. So the elections, in Adamawa State will be very, very interesting. Aisha Binani has gotten the ticket on the platform of a major political party. At the center, the APC is ruling, but at the state, the PDP holds sway. But many Nigerians will be hoping that maybe there will be an upset. Maybe because the current governor will not be coming out again because he has served his 2 terms. He was once a governor before he lost and came back to serve the 2nd term. So now is a more neutral field. And the APC, when you talk about the personalities, you have Boss Mustafa, the secretary to the government of the federation. You have the former secretary to the government of the federation, Babachi Lawal.
All right. Amadin, thank you so much. I'm sorry because of our time, we'll have to interrupt you there. But thank you so much for the comprehensive list of, things and people that are trending right now in the state. We also have Lagos being the epicenter. I mean, we've seen so many things happening in Lagos State, Nigeria. And we have Dapo Adigboye, who will be giving us a rundown of the happenings around Lagos in the run-up to the elections. Dapo, take it away.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. Blessings and Shewa. Well, Lagos is not, you can't remove Lagos out of the equation. Lagos actually is the epicenter of where a lot of things will happen on that day. Now, a few days back, that's about yesterday, the presidential flag bearer of the APC, that's the All Progressive Congress, had the mega rally in Lagos, and the turnout was absolutely massive. We saw videos and, of course, footage of his campaign trail all the way from the airport in Lagos down to the TBS. And, of course, you could see the mammoth crowd, too. being that this is the home of there you have it on the screen there, the APC presidential flag bearer, Bola, in person of Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Lagos is also ruled by the APC in terms of governorship. So right now, what is the permutation? Well, the permutation lies with Saturday. Now, there are some speculations that should should the party not win at the federal level, it might affect the governorship elections in Lagos State. That's the coming back of the current governor in person of Babajide Sanwo-Olu. But those are just mere speculations, only time will tell. Now, in terms of the atmosphere right now in Lagos State, we are beginning to see show of force too. Just earlier today, the military decided to roll out some tanks and position them at strategic places, just to let people know that, look, you have nothing to worry about in terms of security. The state is well guarded. And also in terms of the mood, as regards the electorate, people are really eager and anticipating towards Saturday. I think at the end of the day, it might be too early to say what party will, eventually win in Lagos State, particularly at the presidential level. But it looks like for now it seems spread, about. There are certain areas in Lagos State you visit, it's all about the APC. Some areas it's all about the Labour Party. While in some areas in Lagos State, it's about the PDP. So in terms of the voter, swaying right now, one would have to wait till Saturday before one is able to eventually say which party. But again, some school of thought will say, using the power of the incumbent, it's most likely will be, the APC. But we can't conclude all of that because right now what we are beginning to see, particularly with the current hardship people are facing in terms of the naira, scarcity of the naira, and the fuel too, it looks like it's not going to be business as usual. So we might just see an election that is, a truly defining one, across all spheres in Lagos State this time around.
Too soon to tell, and this is a tight one. It's not like, business as usual, like we've always had it. But one thing is we've always hoped that this is going to be a peaceful election, and it's looking really bloody in some places, and hopefully it doesn't continue like that. I mean, we hear on the news that the Enugu state senatorial candidate was gunned down early this morning or late last night, and Peter Obi came out to condemn that. We're hoping that we don't have such occurrences again in the run-up to the elections. But once again, thank you so much, Dakpo, for giving us that update.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you're still watching Report Desk Africa, and we are talking about the presidential elections, all-round elections in Nigeria for the 25th, 26th of February 2023, and we're giving you the update of that. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. If you're just joining the program, we've been analyzing the Nigeria's 2023 presidential elections, looking at the top 4 candidates and what to expect as Nigerians go out to vote in the next presidential elections. And then, of course, to vote in the successor of President Muhammadu Buhari, who has just completed his 8-year term in office according to the Constitution. Of course, we still have our correspondent, Dakpo Adigboye, and then we have BETTINA NWELIH joining us from the south part of Nigeria, and OMONIYI is joining us from the eastern part. And of course, our bureau chief in Abuja joining us from Adamawa State, Nigeria. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you all for still being with us. Now, NIYI, back to you. There was some video circulating on social media about the PVCs earlier, and I just want us to talk about the preparedness of INEC, relating to that. Now, we've heard several times where the INEC said things like they've never been more prepared for any other election. So it seems as if they have everything sorted out. But do you think that is true, though?
Well, from what we see on ground, I don't think they are having the issues like Lagos is having, whereby there's a case in court about who they are using in terms of transporting these sensitive materials. But one thing is sure, they've sorted that out, because as at the time we visited the INEC office this afternoon, we saw that those materials have been moved to the CBN office, where they will be forwarded first to various rack centers tomorrow. So from what we can see on ground, we can say INEC is prepared here. However, if it has to do with the for the election observers, and of course that has not been delivered to them, INEC PRO earlier, who mentioned that how much more the people who are going to be doing things, who are going to be using these tags on the election day. Hopefully tomorrow when we visit there, we can get these tags, and of course, but I just feel that some of these things should have been done earlier, especially when it has to do with the observers or people who are going to be performing various duties across the election centers. But for the I can speak for the INEC center here in Anambra, and of course Oka, particularly where I am, that they seem prepared.
All right, NIYI, let me also ask you there. I think this is like the first time that people from that region would have a representation in presidency in Nigeria. Like looking at the voting patterns in the past, what are your projections for Saturday's election? Do you think that the people are ready, to come out in their numbers to actually express, their right to vote in their most preferred candidate?
Sincerely, I would liken this to what happened when former President Goodluck Jonathan was about leaving, finished his tenure. One thing people wanted was they wanted him out, not because they maybe liked APC or they liked Buhari. I feel that they just saw another option aside Goodluck Jonathan, and that was what they wanted. And I think, fortunately, Peter Obi just happens to be the vessel available at this point in time, where people are clamoring for not change this time around, but something different than the ordinary. I was speaking with someone earlier who mentioned that the NSAS didn't achieve its main purpose, but it helped open the eyes of people to the fact that they need to do more. They need to invest in governance. They need to put more eyes and more commitments into governance. And that has been the result we have been seeing so far, because the youth demographic alone that has been involved in this election process has given the election process a dramatic turn, because all these things really, really matter when it has to do with various demographics that are involved in the election process. But as I said earlier, I can only speak for Anambra. So far, I feel from the perspective of people here, what they just want is someone to take over the reins from someone who has been doing it for a very long time. They want a change in the dynamics. They want something different from the normal. They want a young blood. As I said earlier, Peter Obi just happens to be a vessel. He happens to fit into some of the criteria they are wanting. Okay, so there's the older generation that has been in power for long. Peter Obi seems younger than all of them. There's the youth participation. Peter Obi seems to be more affiliated with the youth. There's the corruption issues. Peter Obi seems to be someone, according to their own words, who has built integrity over the years, and specifically in Anambra here, who has also been fought against as when it has to do with his integrity and not being wanted to put his hands into dirty stuff. So these are some of the criteria that are making people tilt towards him, and he's just like the eagle that has spring forth, and people are saying, you know what, this newbie, yes, there's a saying that says the devil you know is better than the angel you don't know. But this time around, I think they are open to just go with the angel no matter where it takes them.
Well, I mean, talking about the angel, there also seems to be a track record that so many people are hinging on. But aside that, AMADIN, there seems to be a wave sweeping across the African continent. And that is, there's a tight election and one party comes out to contest the results of the election. Let's look at the Kenya elections as a case study. Raila Odinga came out in August 2022 to challenge the results that made William Ruto win. Now, how do we ensure that the same does not happen, that there are no blurry lines in the election results, after this election, once the results are counted, once the votes are counted? How do we ensure that everything is clearly stated so it doesn't look like there's another repetition of one party coming out to challenge the other, because it looks like there was, some wavy lines in between?
The truth about the matter is that we have not gotten to that point in Africa. You have to have a very advanced democracy such that everybody understands their limits and everybody understands the terrain they can play in. Now, if you talk about contesting election results, politicians, whatever. For the nearest future, we still have to see that in Africa, because if America's democracy that we tend to copy, if at a point in time the former President Donald Trump come out and challenge his works, saying that no, he did not win and it was a bidding win Africa, who we've not had that stability in our political climate, I don't think we'll get to see anything like that soon. But you mentioned something about the waves sweeping across Africa. Remember that Africa has a very young population, and Africa, unfortunately, the elder generation has not lived up to their expectations and their responsibilities. That is why you see widespread poverty, underdevelopment, disease, famine, and others within the African continent. When you talk about a continent that is supposed to be very well blessed, I spoke to a development economist 2 days ago. He said that pick a seed and throw it at your backyard. Come back 2 days later and you see it is already growing without any input from you. That is the kind of potential we have in Africa, not just in the farming sector, but across many sectors. But what we have realized in the last few years, you talk about the William Ruto win. Remember that this wave which you talk about is an awakening by the youthful population in Africa. Once upon a time, they were not interested in politics. They were not interested in governance. But now, across the African continent, from the north to the south, from the west to the east, you see Africans are getting up. A few years ago, we had the Arab Spring, when some countries in Africa also witnessed that, Tunisia and the rest. Which group of people led this movement? It was the youth. Because at a point in time, the youth in Africa have begun to say that we are fed up of the system. Our counterparts in Europe, our counterparts in the Americas, they are not better than us. So we want to be part of the system. We want to be included. You talk of countries like Rwanda that is doing so well. What has been their key? Because they have been able to integrate youth into governance. So what we see is that across the African continent, not just in West Africa or East Africa, the youth are now becoming more involved, and are becoming more enlightened, that they need to be involved in the process. That was why during the Kenya elections, William Ruto was able to appeal to these youths, and you see they gave him massive support. So many people thought that Raila Odinga, who had fought consistently with the...
I'm going to throw the same question at Dapo. You are in Lagos currently, and you've seen, the voters' agitation towards a lot of things, and then you're also seeing that it's almost time for the election. So what do we say about vote buying? Do you think that people are going to cave this time?
Well, I think that at the moment, the minds of a lot of people, particularly the voters, are made up. Now, INEC said quite a bulk of the voting population this time around are young people, below the age of 34. So we are beginning to see young people that, needless to say, before usually expressed voter apathy, now coming out and willing to vote intentionally, right? So I think right now, given the fact that there's a lot of political education, political awareness, and there's also the reality of the moment. And what am I saying? Right now, people are beginning to see that, look, it's not about them and us anymore. Decisions they make affect our daily lives. A good example is the scarcity of the naira. A lot of people are finding it hard to feed their families and get to work. Even though the idea, the initiative is laudable, a lot of people have faulted the implementation, right? And also the timing of the initiative itself. So we are beginning to see young people who are tired of the norm and they want an intentional government this time around. So we might just see a swing, from what we usually consider the norm. Even though there are, talks of online noise is different from real life. But we might just be shocked by the reality to see that at the end of the day, the same people online, maybe to a large extent, might also be represented in real life. So I just see, for me, I'm projecting a situation whereby we might just see a change from the usual. I mean, this election is very pivotal, and I'll give you a very particular example. We are seeing the international system being interested. As we speak currently in Nigeria, there are a lot of foreign visitors, some coming in as observers, some coming in as press, some just coming in to you know, be a part of the system. And the whole world right now is focused on the outcome of this election. Now, this election is the first of many in Nigeria. We're having 3 candidates, you know, who represent to a very large extent the 3 geopolitical division, or the geographical division, talking about the North, the East, and the West. And we're also seeing for the first time, it's not just the usual 2-party, even though we practice a multi-party system. Yes, we have about 18 presidential candidates, but for the first time, we are beginning to see 3 major, at least key individuals stand out as the top 3, unlike the usual top 2 that we are seeing in the past. So it's the first of many. So I think that in terms of youth participation this time around, we'll see the youth, the young people participate in mass, not just in Lagos State, but across Nigeria.
All right, thank you so much, Dapo, for that update. Thank you so much. We've been speaking with our correspondent both in Lagos, in Delta, Anambra, and Adamawa states. We had Dapo Adigboye, we had Bettina NWELIH in Delta, we had AMADIN in Adamawa state, and of course, NIYI OMONIYI in Anambra state. We thank you so much for joining on the program.
I mean, well, it's needless to say that Nigeria's election is very pivotal, like Dapo said, and
Exactly.
it's going to lead to a democratic reform depending on how it turns out. So a lot of people are interested in this, not just people within the country, but people outside. We're having international eyes on the country, and hopefully it turns out well. And like I said earlier, we hope that it gets peaceful henceforth. Thank you so much again, our correspondents. Right now, we're going to be having the forecast, and we have Dapo Adigboye still on standby to give us a forecast.